The most underrated matchup in college football week 1. We've got Auburn heading to Baylor. Both of these coaching staffs are in prove-it years, in my opinion. We've got Carden here from Saturdays in the SEC. Let's hop right into a preview. We're going to give you a score prediction at the end. First question up, Carden. Who needs to win this game more, Auburn or Baylor?
I think it's pretty even with both fan bases, but I think on a national level, talking about competing, obviously it would help either way. But Auburn needs to win this more than Baylor does when it comes to the national rankings. Obviously, I think Big 12's probably only going to get one in the playoffs this year. But if Auburn is going to go on and be competitive and win several games, it'll look better on Baylor's resume if they drop that one than it will if Auburn drops the Baylor one, even if they go on, because the strength of schedule is just much different. So I think it's pretty even, but from a national impact point of view, I think Auburn needs this way more than Baylor. And then from a fan point of view, I am an Auburn fan. I do think that Hugh Freeze is under some serious stress to get this win. This is a big one. This is going to decide how Auburn's season is going to go. So I think the argument is probably Hugh Freeze, but not by a long shot.
Now, I think we can both agree that when it comes to quarterback in this matchup, maybe you disagree, but I'll ask you straight up. Do you think that you lean on Sawyer Robertson more than Jackson Arnold, who's the starting quarterback for Auburn this upcoming season? Or do you think it's more of an even matchup?
I think you got to say Sawyer Robertson, just what he's done. He's been there quite a while, put up some really good numbers. He's a really good quarterback. We were talking earlier. I think that if it comes down to a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter, and you're asking me which quarterback's going to do it, I'm going to say Sawyer Robertson is. He's at home, he's done it before, played a lot of football, and what we've seen from Jackson Arnold so far has not been great. Now, granted, he wasn't in a great situation, but that doesn't excuse the fact that he had some bad tape last year. So I think if you're asking me that right now going into it, it's Sawyer Robertson for sure, and I think that would be majority of people's answer.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think Jackson Arnold, coming out of high school, 5-star recruit, you see the talent, like it's on the tape. But with Oklahoma last year, a very unfortunate situation for him to have to step into. 5 of their, I think 9 wide receivers on the roster, scholarship roster, ended up being injured and missing the majority of the season last year. So he transfers over to Auburn. My asking of that question, though, was to kind of poise the next question is, has Auburn really solved their quarterback issue that they've dealt with now for 6-7 years?
I think that's going to be found out on Friday night. I really do.
I agree.
As much as I hate to say it, you can never tell till the bullets are flying. And, at times he was good last year, but a lot of times, he was not great last year at Oklahoma. So I really hope, they have. I think Deuce Knight is really good. There's a lot of praise going on for him.
Yep.
So I think the future of the quarterback room is okay as long as they're able to keep him there. But right now, it's really a toss-up, and we're going to find out at 7 o'clock in Waco.
Indeed. Okay, so looking at the Baylor side of this matchup, about midway through last season, there were a lot of calls for the coaching staff to lose their jobs. They had a very disappointing start to the season, but they closed it out, I believe, going 6-1. All 6 of those, or 5 of those 6 victories were conference wins. And so my question is, do you think they can maintain that momentum with or without a loss here against Auburn?
I think they could probably maintain the momentum depending on what type of game it is. If it is a close, low-scoring game or a close game that's battled out to one of the last few drives in the fourth quarter, I think that's something they can hang their hat on, a play here, a play there. But if Auburn comes in and just dominates them, it's going to be hard to build on some momentum there, and might be tougher to buy into the vision of what the coaches are selling. But I don't think this game is going to be a blowout. I think that I think it could be potentially handled one way pretty well, but I don't think in any way it's going to be a blowout. So I think that they're going to be able to sustain the momentum regardless of if they win or lose this game. Obviously, if they win this game, it's a launch pad for the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. But if they lose it, it's not. I don't think it's just a horrible loss like you're losing to a FCS program or something like that.
Right. Now, thinking about the rest of the roster, we talked about quarterback a little bit, but in my opinion, I think Auburn at almost every single position group has got Baylor outmatched. I mean, wide receiver, probably the majority of it all. I mean, Eric Singleton, Cam Coleman. Of course, the Auburn offensive line, in my opinion, has got several NFL prospects. Connor Lew, I'm a big fan of. I think he's one of the best centers in the SEC outside of Jake Slaughter, I believe, from Florida. So can this Auburn group, with maybe a little bit of a disappointment at quarterback come Friday, possibly, can that group, overcome that adversity?
I think they can, and I think it's going to be because of the roster talent that's up and down Auburn's roster. Regardless of if it's proven or not, the talent is just better than Baylor's head to toe. And I think in the trenches is where this game is going to be defined late in the game. I think Auburn's got both lines of scrimmage are way better than Baylor has. Not that Baylor's is bad by any means, but I think when you look at the roster and you've seen the players that have played, I think Auburn's got it there in the trenches between the two, and I think that's going to be a big differential, especially late in this ball game.
Much agreed. I definitely think that when it comes to who's going to win this game, it's going to be whoever wins at the line of scrimmage. Now, in terms of the Baylor offense, they've got several, star caliber skill group guys. I love Bryson Washington at running back. I think he had a phenomenal ending to last season. Josh Cameron, who's probably Sawyer Robertson's number one target. I think he's a really good mid-tier route runner. The question is, though, what is the scheme here for Auburn to stop this Baylor offense? And before I let you answer, I'll step in and give you mine. I think the X factor here is Keldrick Falk and what kind of disruption he can cause in the backfield. But let me know who you've got as Auburn's go-to guy to get this Baylor offense slowed down.
I think that it's going to be the defensive front. The front four as a whole. Yeah. If you can get home to the quarterback without having to send pressure, I think that is obviously you can say that for every game.
Yeah, that's just a coach's dream.
Yeah, that's just super important. Being able to get to the quarterback without having to dial up pressures consistently, I think that's huge, especially with an experienced quarterback being at home. You can get in there, knock him off his balance, and be in his ear hole all night. Any quarterback, no matter how good you are, it's going to deter your game. So I think that's the biggest thing is just the defensive line being able to get to disrupt the quarterback consistently without having to dial up too many pressures.
I completely agree. I think that if there's one guy, especially in the middle of that front, that's going to have if the Auburn defense is going to have a good day, I think Quintrell Jamison Travis, if I've got that right, is going to have a field day. And he definitely has the requisite talent to do so. And I love his size here coming in against this Baylor offense, who I think runs a little fast. And I think this Auburn defense isn't like some of these other SEC defenses. They've got good athleticism and speed to them. And so they can match that high pace Big 12 offense. It's not going to be like an LSU defense gets in there and gets kind of lagged up by this, Baylor pressure coming on the offense. Now, flipping to the Baylor side of the football defensively, I love Travion Barnes and his ability to fly to the football. But what factor do you think, or what kind of matchup are you looking at for this Baylor defense to have to focus on in terms of facing Auburn's offense?
I think that they need to force Jackson Arnold to prove that he can beat them through the game, through the air, through the pass game. If Auburn's able to run the football, it's going to be a long night for Baylor. Baylor's got to absolutely prove that Auburn is not going to run on them, and I think that increases their success rate by a landslide. If they're able to stop the run and make Jackson Arnold beat them with his arm, I think that sets up for a win for Baylor.
Much agreed. I definitely think that we're going to see a lot of stacked boxes for this Baylor defense. Now, in terms of what they've been able to prove in years past, I mean, we look at that 2022 or 2021 Baylor defense, and they were like number 6 in the country in scoring allowed. So, I mean, it's not that, their scheme is incapable of stopping teams. It's hard to do that in the Big 12 with everybody, throwing for 1,000,000 yards every single game. But when you get somebody that kind of lacks experience in an efficient offense like Jackson Arnold, if you force him to throw the football, especially deeper than 5 to 10 yards, and get him, trying to take the top off the defense, I think that's where Baylor succeeds as well. So let's hop into the official prediction for this game. If you don't mind, I'm going to take the first crack at this.
Go ahead.
I think Auburn flat out wins at the line of scrimmage, and it's going to be a long night for Baylor. I don't think that it's going to be a blowout per se, but I do think that Auburn kind of takes the lead early. I've got the final score right now is 27-17. I think going into the fourth quarter, it will be somewhere in the ballpark of 24-10. Baylor's going to score a touchdown and maybe put this game within reach at 24-17, but then Auburn will have, kind of a long-lasting drive running the football and go up with one more field goal. Now, of course, we mentioned this before we started recording, but Auburn had some worrisome kicker news. Alec McPherson, I believe, is questionable, correct?
Yes.
Coming in this game? Yes. So maybe that's something to look out for in terms of Auburn's ability to kick field goals, and maybe that changes their scheme offensively. But for now, I'm going to go with he's probably going to play. Even if he doesn't, I think Auburn wins this game comfortably. That's where I'm sitting right now. Carden, go ahead. Let me hear what you got.
If it comes down to a field goal type of game, Auburn's going to be in trouble. It's going to be a long year for Auburn.
Yep.
So I think Auburn's, like we talked about, the roster, the talent that's there on the field is just better than what Baylor has. So I think if Auburn executes well and plays to their standard or plays to their expectation, then I think that this game is in control late third quarter, which is never a safe bet when you got Hugh Freeze on the sidelines. They've let several of those slip away.
Yeah.
However, I think it'll be in control, and Auburn should win this game pretty handily. I think the final score is going to be somewhere like 28-13, 31-14, somewhere along those lines. I don't think that the final score is you're going to look and say that was just a blowout if it does end in those games or in those scores. I think that you're going to look and say that was a better game than the final score indicates, but there's going to be a late touchdown or something along those lines that might just absolutely seal the deal. But Auburn should go in there and be able to handle these guys and walk out of there with a win.
Definitely agree with you there. So moving into our gambling part of this this episode, the line currently right now is Auburn -2.5, and it sounds like we're both in agreement there.
Yeah.
We both like Auburn -2.5 a lot, as a matter of fact. Now, this game is on the road, and with any college football team, you don't know how they're going to really perform on the road, especially with an unproven quarterback in a new spot, new system. But overall, we're pretty much in agreement. The skill group, both lines of scrimmage, even the secondary, I think Auburn has the advantage talent wise.
Okay.
So we both agree here. Auburn -2.5. Now the over under is kind of the topic of discussion. Carden, where do you lean in terms of the over-under as it sits right now?
What does it sit at right now? I haven't seen it since it first opened.
Okay, so it's at 57.5, which I thought that's pretty high in my opinion. But what do you think?
I would take that under. I don't think it's going to get that high. This Auburn defense returns a lot of guys. They were a really young defense last year, started the most freshmen in the whole country on defense. They return a lot of production on the defensive side of the ball. Still young, but I don't think the moment's going to be too big, and I think they learned a lot last year. They might be a sophomore, but they're really playing like a junior type deal. I think this defense, I don't see them being 30 hung on this Auburn defense. I really don't.
I completely agree. I think if this over-under goes over, it probably is just because this game ends up being ugly and it's a blowout. And, we see kind of like what we saw last year with Auburn early versus like Alabama A&M, where they're just throwing nuke after nuke and nailing Cam Coleman in the end zone. Right. Maybe we could see that, but this is not necessarily an even matchup, but it's pretty close. I mean, the line's at 2.5. I just don't think we see both or either of these teams, run away with it to the point that they're throwing up 35, 42 points. So I had my score prediction at 27-17, which combined is like 44. That's 14 points over the line. So yeah, I think we both agree here. That's our preview for this Auburn versus Baylor game. Carden, let everybody know where they can find you on social media. Go ahead.
Yes, Saturdays in the SEC. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, TikTok, and Twitter. So find us there, Saturdays_SEC on Twitter, and Saturdays in the SEC with a period in between each word on TikTok.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you guys all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.